Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our morning class on Chassidut at 9:15 right here in Rechavia in Yerushalayim. Thank you to Raya and Mordechai for broadcasting this class to all of you. Yesterday, we started learning a very interesting Mishna. The Mishna was very short. Ten lo mishalo, give him, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, back from what's really his. In other words, give tzedakah, give to the needy, give to institutions. She'ata v'shalach shalom. For you, and whatever you have is really his. So we really have to understand, what is the Mishnah coming to teach us? Is it coming to teach us a regular mitzvah that you have to give tzedakah? Everybody knows that. You have to give tzedakah, and it's really Hashem's. Well, we are going to try to analyze what the Mishnah says, she'ata v'shalach shalom. That you and everything you have is really his. What is the Torah view of the belongings that someone has? Something that belongs to you. Does it really, really belong to you? Or maybe not? On one hand, if you earned the money and you bought something, then it's yours. On the other hand, everything in the world belongs to Hashem. So what is the approach? How are we supposed to view such a scenario where we look at ourselves and things that we own? Let's start off with a story from Sir Moses Montefiore. The Queen of England once asked him, "How much are you worth?" And Mr. Montefiore said that he has to make a calculation, and he said, "I'll get back to you a little later on." After a while, Sir Montefiore came back and said a certain amount. So the Queen wondered, and she said, "I know that you have companies and buildings and real estate much more than the number that you mentioned." And the number that he mentioned was quite high. So Moshe answered her, "What do you think? Why did I ask you for some time to make a calculation? I know how much I'm worth, but I wanted to make a calculation of how much tzedakah I gave. Because the things that I own are not truly mine. Today they may be here, and tomorrow maybe not. Khalila. But the tzedakah that I gave, that is something that I acquire forever. And that is the exact number that I gave you." If we look at the Torah in the Talmud tells us about certain things that have a strong connection with a person. For example, a person's spouse. 40 days before a person is formed, there is a heavenly voice which goes out and says, "This person will marry that person. This person will live in this home. This field, like business, will belong to this person." So the question is, we can understand when it comes to a shidduch that it's yours. This is the completion of your neshama. So it's almost as if you belong to it, to your spouse, and your spouse belongs to you. You're one unit. But for heaven's sakes, when it comes to your home, big deal. You live here, you live there. You buy this thing, you buy that thing. Or let's say you buy a chair. So you go to the store and you have a whole stack of chairs and you pick out one chair. Between you and I, is that chair really connected to you? Technically speaking, you pulled out that chair. It seems to be, from what the Gemara says, that it's a heavenly voice which comes out and says, "This home will be for this person." So maybe there is a connection. And the explanation is that ownership, according to Torah, is different than ownership according to the secular world. There's a joke that the gabbai comes over to the guy in shul, a new guy walks in and says, well, I want to give you an aliyah. Please tell me your name. So he says, Devora bat Moshe. Devora, the daughter of Moshe. So he says, no. What's your name? Not your wife's name. So he says, 3 months ago, I signed up all of my belongings on my wife's name. So in the secular world, a person can own something and it shouldn't be on their name, as if they don't really own it. Or if, God forbid, if they have a lot of debt, they can declare bankruptcy. So one day you own it, another day you don't own it. It's almost as if it's something which is disposable. But according to Torah, when you own something, it's almost like a shidduch, similar to that concept. If a Kadosh Baruch Hu brought about that you should choose this book from the shelf and buy it, even though there are 30 other books of the same exact type, that means that that specific book is connected to your neshama, and that's why you chose it. There's a beautiful interpretation from the Baal Shem Tov, the holy Baal Shem Tov, about in Tehillim chapter 107, we say it Erev Shabbat, before Mincha. Re'evim gam tzemeim, the simple meaning is those that are hungry and thirsty. Nafsham bahem titataf, their soul wraps up in them. What does it mean on a deeper level? If someone is hungry and you take something from the middle of the table and you took one piece of chicken and not the other, or you took one brownie bar and not the other, that means that brownie bar, you feel you're connected to it. You're drawn to it, so to speak. So you can say, it's a piece of materialism. Who cares, this piece, that piece? But if you're a tzaddik and you have a laser vision and you look at someone taking something, Re'evim gam tzemeim, those that are hungry and those that are thirsty, nafsham bahem titataf. It's their soul which has been wrapped up in them. It's their soul which has been drawn to them. So therefore, we are connected on a deep level to people that we come in contact with, to even objects that we deal with. Nothing is random in this world. There is a master of the universe. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the Baalim, is the owner of the world. And if he made that we should own something or we should be connected to something, then ownership means that there is an intrinsic, on some level, intrinsic connection between you, between the individual and the object. So therefore, that demands a great level of responsibility when we're dealing with something. We're not just dealing with a hat. We're not just dealing with a jacket or a shoe or whatever we're dealing with. We're dealing with the hat of Hashem. We're dealing with a hat. If you chose a hat, that means that hat is connected to you, and that's going to help you and fulfill your mission in this world. Because every minute that we're here, we have a mission. So we have a choice, either to look at the people around us or the things we come in contact with as just technical, just by the way, or we can get into it. And we can realize that this is really part of our mission in this world. We have an obligation to make it happen. This is why it says, the Maggid of Mezrich says that our sages teach us Torah chasa al mamonam shel Yisroel. The Torah is concerned for the money of Am Yisrael. So a person can say, what do you care about money? Big deal. It's only a little bit of money. So you pay another $5. You pay another 500 shekels. No. The Torah is concerned about the money. If you earned it, that means that it belongs to you and it's supposed to help you fulfill your shlichut in the world. And you have to do everything in your power not to waste it. To the extent that it says that tzaddikim, their money is more beloved upon them than their own bodies. That's why Yaakov Avinu went back when he forgot some little jugs. He went back across the river in order to get them because he realized that they are part of his shlichut in the world. And that's exactly why Am Yisrael proclaims ownership over Eretz Yisrael. Because unlike any other nation, that they're just they happen to be in some part of the world, the French happen to be in France, but if the French will be cut and paste, we'll take them somewhere else, or the Arabs, the 8 million Arabs that are there, throw them out, then they'll be somewhere else. Then they'll just talk French somewhere else. I don't wish it on them, of course, but I'm just saying a scenario. But Am Yisrael, we are here in Eretz Yisrael, we are the owners, because the land is holy. The land is connected to us. Unlike any other nation in the world. Therefore it says, if someone steals, God forbid, even one shekel, one little amount from someone else, it's just, so one can ask, if you're talking about a poor person, and maybe you can understand, you take away his money, it's like you're killing him. But a rich person, the answer is, the reason why it's considered as if you killed the person is because if he owns it, that's part of him. It's part of his mission in the world. There's an interesting story that there was the hundreds of years ago, about 400 years ago, there was a chatan and a kala. The chatan was from Mitzrayim, from Egypt, and the kala was from Poland. The father of the bride was very, very rich, and he gave his daughter and her husband a lot of real estate and a lot of money for them to have. Unfortunately, very tragically, within the first year, the wife passed away. So the father of the kala said that the belongings come back to me. And the chatan, the husband, said it belongs to me. The halacha is that the husband inherits his wife. The thing is that there is a difference regarding the first year, if the wife passes away, God forbid, between the Ashkenazim and the Sephardim. According to the Ashkenazim, if the wife passes away in the first year, then the money goes back to the parents, to the father. But according to the Sephardim, then the money remains with the chatan. So they went to the great tzaddik, the Marshal, who he was an Ashkenaz. I guess he lived in Poland. And he ruled that the money goes back to the father. But the chatan said, 1 second, I'm Sephardi, and I'm from Mitzrayim. I want to go to a Rav in Mitzrayim, in Egypt, and I want to hear what his ruling is. And of course, he ruled that the money goes to the chatan. So they decided they would go to the holy Arizal. The Arizal, he was Ashkenaz himself, but he lived in Mitzrayim. So that would be a good balance. So the holy Arizal said as follows. In a previous lifetime, the family of the Kala owed a lot of money to the Chatan. Therefore, their neshamas had to come back down into this world, unfortunately in those scenarios, in order that the money should go to the Chatan. So therefore, we realize that every person is definitely connected to their belongings. It's not just a technical thing which happens to be by the way that one person owns this, but everything is planned by Hashem. And not always do we know what the neshamas are like in a previous lifetime, but in that case, the Arizal, the great tzaddik, he was able to clarify that. This is another reason why it says in the Talmud that Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, Rabbeinu HaKadosh, who wrote the Mishnah, it says, Rabbi mechabed ashirim. Rabbi would honor the rich. So some people ask, why would he honor the rich? Rabbi was a great tzaddik. Is he blinded after money? Was he trying to find favor, God forbid, false favor in their eyes? And the answer is Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi was a tzaddik, and he saw within every situation the shlichut, the mission that every person has. And through the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu blesses a certain individual or a certain family or certain people with a lot of funds, a lot of potential, that means that they have a great shlichut in the world. And therefore he honored them, he respected them. Wow, look how Hashem entrusts this person with so much money in order to accomplish a lot, in order to build many shuls, in order to build Chabad houses, in order to build mikvahs, in order to support schools and children and poor families. Therefore, Rabbeinu HaKadosh, he respected and he had a special honor for rich people. This is what the Mishnah says. Ten lo mishalo. In our Mishnah it says, give him, Hashem, what really is his. She'ata v'shalcha shalo. On one hand, everything belongs to Hashem. And Hashem puts it in every situation in order to fulfill his mission of tikkun olam in this world. Everyone has a part in the puzzle. On the other hand, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave you and I, every single person, the exact amount of tools in order to fulfill your mission in the world. So because it's your mission or because it's my mission, Hashem gives us the exact medium in order to fulfill it. So it's yours, it's mine. Once Hashem gives it to us, Sha'ata v'shalcha shalo, because you and everything you have is his. So it's yours. It really is yours and mine until we fulfill the mission. So it's not really, really yours, but it is yours. So we're trying to balance a very, very fine line between when we give tzedakah, we are giving ours, but on the other hand, we are giving what really belongs to Hashem. There's a great story from Rabbi Shabtai Slavatitsky. Before he became Chabad, he's a shliach today, a veteran shliach in Antwerp, Belgium. He was the prize student of one of the Lithuanian yeshivas over here in Yerushalayim. Many, many years ago, he learned Tanya and he became Chabad. And he wrote a letter to the Rebbe if he should start putting on a second pair of tefillin called Rabbeinu Tam. You might know that Chassidim put on a second pair of tefillin, which is called Rabbeinu Tam, which is according to the opinion of Rashi's grandson, Rabbeinu Tam. So the Rebbe erased the word should I, and in Hebrew, of course, and he wrote an arrow towards putting on Rabbeinu Tam. In other words, yes, you should put on Rabbeinu Tam. So he says that when he received the letter from the Rebbe, it was cut from all sides. There was only that sentence. It didn't have the whole letter. It was just that sentence that was cut out. So he asked the Rebbe's secretary, Rabbi Klein of blessed memory, who cut the paper. And he said the Rebbe never leaves any empty paper. He utilizes every space, every empty space that there is. And he said the same thing when he went into Yechidut, the private audience of the Rebbe. He remembers that the Rebbe made a little note on his paper, and the Rebbe had a really small pencil. Remember in the previous century, when we used to use pencils and sharpen them, and sharpen them, and sharpen them even more, and they became smaller and smaller until they became really, really small. So Rabbi Slavatitsky says that he thought to himself, well, doesn't the Rebbe always talk about l'chatchila ariber, goings, your potential in a very broad way, in a very large way? I'm sure someone could have gone to this. I'm sure bought for the Rebbe a regular pen or pencil, and then he realized the answer. He says he realized the answer that Hashem gives us the potential that we. It comes to spending money and spending and spending things and using things that we have to use in a we have to do things in a large way, but not to let anything go to waste. We have to use everything until the very end. So one of the great examples of us giving to Hashem and expressing the fact, the balance that on one side it's ours, on the other side it's Hashem's, is giving tzedakah. Because when we give tzedakah, we are indicating that we are giving Hashem what's ours and what's really His. What we said up until now, the first part of the class, was about everything that we have. Whatever we use, it belongs to Hashem. But when we give tzedakah, we are showing Hashem that we're having a healthy balance between using for us what's ours, but it's really ours, because Hashem decided that it's ours, and at the same time to give back to Hashem, to give Hashem what really belongs to Him. So it's almost as if we're giving back. So basically, like we said yesterday, the Mishna is teaching us how to give tzedakah. If a person views, I am the big rich man and I am giving tzedakah, I'm such a great guy and I want to have appreciation from today till tomorrow, and if God forbid I don't have any appreciation, then I won't give any tzedakah anymore to this organization, God forbid, then it's all about me. I'm the big guy and I'm the one that's going to decide where the money goes to. But if a person realizes that it's not about me, it's about Hashem, and it's about the subject. The subject is we have to give tzedakah because that's what Hashem wants. It's not my money to begin with. Hashem put it in my hands in order that I should be sort of the baalim, the owner. But when I give tzedakah, I'm not just giving the actual money. It's the feeling that I have. It should not be with a feeling of ego, rather with a feeling of humility. I'd like to finish off with one amazing story about a great Rav, who was the grandfather of the chief rabbi of Migdal Emek, Rabbi Grossman, Rabbi Yitzchak David Grossman. His grandfather was Rabbi Shneir Zalman Grossman, and this is many, many years ago. I'm guessing, a very, very rough guess, we're talking about at least 100 years ago. And he was very, very poor. He had to marry off his children. He was a very great Rav. And he had to go to America to fundraise. On the way, he stopped off in Rosh Pina here in Israel. And he saw that there were many mud puddles. And unfortunately, because of that, there were many sicknesses. There were no doctors, no medicines. And the people of Rosh Pina knew that he was going to Chutz La'aretz, excuse me. And he said, and they told him, when you go to the resting places of tzaddikim, he should please daven for them. He went onto the boat, which was probably was supposed to take a few months to get to America. And he had a custom that every Friday night he would not sleep. He would just daven very long and learn Torah. So also on the boat, the night of Shabbos, he davened with songs and pouring out his soul. It was just very inspiring to listen to Rabbi Grossman daven. On that same boat, the Baron Rothschild was on the boat, and he saw Rabbi Grossman davening from the depths of his heart. So Mr. Rothschild was very, very inspired. At the end of the davening, he went over to Rabbi Grossman and said to him, I heard your very, very touching, moving davening. And you can ask from me whatever you want. Only one thing, but whatever you want, you can choose it. He said, let me think about it. Thank you. So Rabbi Grossman went to his room, and he thought to himself, what could he ask for? And then he realized that he could ask Mr. Rothschild to give him all the money to marry off his children. That's the whole reason why he was going to the States. But then he remembered that the Jews of Rosh Pina need to have a medical center. In a split moment, Rabbi Grossman started to run and rush to Mr. Rothschild, and he asked him to build a medical center for the Jews in Rosh Pina and to help dry up the mud puddles. And so Mr. Rothschild was surprised by this request, but he agreed. But then he asked him, why did you have to run? Why couldn't you just walk? So he answered, I was afraid that if I'll wait another minute and think, then I will ask for myself and not for all the people in Rosh Pina. So here you have an individual who could have easily asked for himself, but what was more important to him, to Rabbi Grossman? That he should help an entire city, an entire community to be healthy and to be safe. Thank you very much for joining us. This afternoon, you're invited to the Kotel HaMa'aravi, the Western Wall. There will be an amazing Hachnasat Sefer Torah, finishing the 7th Torah that was written. Each letter was purchased by children around the world for the past few years. And you're welcome to join us. All the best. Have a wonderful day. Tomorrow, B'ezrat Hashem, 9:30, we have Kabbalah Cafe. I just want to mention one important thing. It's very, very sad to inform everyone that a very important woman in the community passed away suddenly, very young. Yes, yesterday, within a few hours, she became sick and she passed away. Mrs. Shoshana Hammer, that she had been part of our community as well. And we are very, very broken because of this. And we wish that her neshama should have an aliyah. Hashem should bless her children and her grandchildren. They should have only good news. And Am Yisroel should not have to suffer anymore. Have a wonderful day and only good news. Bye-bye.